Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Stoker. We have a super fun show today for you, and I'm really excited for it. I'm actually here at Visit Mesa in Mesa, Arizona, and have been spending some time with the team here, and I just thought we have got to have Ashley as a guest on our show. So I've got Ashley Stwertnik from Visit Mesa here. And Ashley, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I've already said I've never been interviewed, so this will be a fun little delight to
Can't
be
wait.
on the other end of the mic.
I'm really excited. And we're going to talk about the fact that you're not the interviewee, you're the interviewer in most cases. So we'll get to that. But before we do, and I know you listen to the show, what's your dream destination, Ashley? If you could go anywhere in the world, where would it be?
You know, I was thinking about this driving in because I was like, do I stay stateside or do I go international? I think I want to stay stateside for this answer, and actually Savannah, Georgia, because I am dying to go to Tybee Island. And I was this close to making a bachelorette party happen there, and somehow Austin, Texas took it from us. So... But yeah, Tybee Island, just East Coast, Southeast Coast. I'm a West Coast girl, grew up going to California. So something other than, the California beaches is what I would love to experience.
My wife and I, so I'm from Georgia. I moved from Georgia to Utah.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Poor assumption on my end.
Oh, no, it's all good. When I was 16, we moved from Georgia. I lived in a little place called Statesboro, which is about 45 minutes from Savannah. And one of the most fun things that I've done, my wife grew up in Utah and was there her whole life. And we have kind of visited that whole southeast coast down there. We've been to Savannah twice, and we kind of split. We do 3 days in Savannah, 3 days in Hilton Head. And you're missing out if you haven't been there. It's incredible. I can tell you where to eat.
I was hoping you were going to say the otherwise, so I didn't have to plan a trip, but now I do.
You absolutely have to go.
Well, the beach, the food, the water... The culture down there is obviously so different from what I see in all the visitor guides and online, and that's truly what's drawing me in.
Well, and they have this hop-on, hop-off trolley in Savannah that's free for everybody, and it gets you all over the city, and, I mean, we used that thing a ton to get
More
around.
than a rental car, then?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's encouraging, too. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah,
it's really great.
I'll be racing home to tell my husband, honey, we booked a trip.
It's time to go to Savannah.
Time to go to Savannah.
Yeah. And this episode is sponsored by Visit Savannah. No,
yeah, right. Just to let you guys know.
Lauren didn't pay for this. So that's where you want to go. Tell me one of your favorite travel memories.
Oh my gosh. We could talk about so many. I have 2 kids, so it was interesting, like you were talking about seeing travel through your kids' eyes. And my daughter will be 4, and I have an almost 1-year-old, and we're big national park people even before our kids came. So my daughter's been to 13 national parks already.
Are you serious?
She has been, 10, 9 stateside, 4 in Canada. But that is probably going to be my favorite one was Banff. Taking my 1.5-year-old up the Big Beehive Trail. She slept the whole time. We have a picture of her overlooking the lakes, and she does not have one clue that she was there.
Do you have the
Osprey backpack?
Yep.
We throw her in there. And then my son right now, he's in a front carrier. But I would say Canada. And it's definitely, we're going to have to revisit that now with my son. But when we hit some different mile markers in that hike, you hit this tea house in the middle of a hike, and you're already looking over the national park. And my daughter's just running around playing with squirrels, and we're drinking tea and having crumb cake, and it was magical. But we're the weirdos that travel for adventure like that. Getting something that slows down is far and few in between. So maybe that's why I want a beach vacation.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I think it's interesting as a parent because you don't know when is the first memory they're going to actually remember, right? Because for some people it's 2, for some people it's 5. It's different for everybody. And so you're just trying to make those memories from as early as they can remember, right? So even though she slept the whole way, it was worth it to try, right?
Exactly. I think it's more memories for mom and dad, and we can show her the pictures and say, this is where you went, this is where you've been. And hopefully she'll have interest in that when she grows up, and she'll want to go back and experience it for herself and maybe her family one day. But Canada was so memorable.
How special of an experience. And I have 4 kids. You guys are brave to
Yeah.
take little kids hiking in national parks and
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
I think
we were just in Montana and Glacier, and that had been a huge national park that we've been planning to go to, and we were on the Highline Trail. And I'm telling you, that trail is 2 people wide. We have a 10-month-old on me. We have my 3-year-old on my husband. We have friends with us that have their 6-month-old. And the whole way people are like, how do you do it? We're like, well, you just throw them up there, give them snacks and water, and they're set for as long as you possibly can. So it's very special to bring them to do that stuff. My daughter loves to go to her mountain houses. She has all these mountain houses everywhere. Little does she know those, we don't own them. We get the luxury to travel to them, but those are her memories, but it makes it all worth it.
that's really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
So let's chat a little bit about what you do at Visit Mesa and maybe your journey to get there.
Sure. Gosh, that is such a toss into such a huge bucket. I have a resume that you would never even know I've ever worked at. I can start from the very beginning. I'm born and raised in Mesa, Arizona. My kids were born in the same hospital that I was born in, which is kind of fun to say. I went to ASU. I graduated with a communications degree. I had goals to be in radio. I worked in radio. A lot of stuff was happening at that time, a lot of buyouts and talking about radio being obsolete. So it kind of scared me. Dabbled in and out of different sales jobs. COVID hit and I was working in a transportation company, was ready to get out of that and worked in a couple odd end jobs. And then I finally looked at my husband and I was like, I need to be doing something other than numbers. I think I was pushing myself into a bucket that I really didn't fit in. Numbers were great. I loved to hit goals. I hated having to make sales. Hated it. I love people, but that's not the way that I love working with people. So I took a position at a local law firm here at the bottom of the barrel in marketing. And it was a super unique position. The head attorney was running for a state senate at the time. So he had different campaigns running. He had a couple of different passion projects that were totally different from the cases that he practiced. And I started to dabble on the back end of his YouTube show. I was
Sorry for those listening. When you say dabble on the back end of his YouTube show, what does that actually mean?
So I was not hosting. I was helping our producer, mock up content, get guests, writing content, which was interesting, writing legal content as not a lawyer. The fun part about that was I was at the cusp of AI. So I remember I'd log into ChatGPT and I'd have to wait to get the login because they were only allowing so many people at a time. But that was literally how I could do that job, was through AI and my very minuscule amount of information that I got while at ASU. So I was back end producing, not editing, not shooting, but producing. And then I took over social media. I was running all these different campaigns. I was helping build out new websites. But the field itself was, I don't know if it was dark. It was kind of sad. I had a young daughter at home and it was hard to separate some of the cases that came into the office with having a family. And I needed something a little bit more uplifting. So scrolling on LinkedIn, as all future job seekers do, and Visit Mesa posted about a marketing position. I was like, great, that's where I can see myself. Who better to take this job than somebody born and raised here, right? And a little background, I knew about Visit Mesa as an adventure thing. So back in the 2018, 17 era, I was a big hiker in the community, and I had a lot to do with a Keep Nature Wild brand that was out of here. So then I got tied in with Visit Mesa, but not fully understanding that tourism was a job for people. And they posted a picture of me hosting a cleanup out at the Salt River in their visitor guide. The funny thing is, full circle, I have family from Illinois staying here in one of our hotels, and I get a picture from my uncle, and he's like, hey, you're in this thing. Like, I can't believe it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, they posted me on social media. That's all I cared about. So then when I started here, I was talking to Kate Yordy, who's our marketing director, and she's like, you look so familiar. And I'm like, couldn't tell you why. Literally couldn't tell you. And then as I got hired, she's like, oh my God, you were posted in our 2018 visitor guide. Flip to the picture. I'm on our server. They have a picture of me. So all of it was serendipitous. So I landed here. On my resume, I had podcasting. Did not have host experience. And they were like, well, what can you do with podcasting? What can you do? And I'm like, well, what do you guys need me to do? I'm scrappy. I can figure it out. And I worked with who was running some of our podcast stuff. And when we were podcasting, we had no video, which was huge in the space. So introduced a couple ideas. We need to get video, get on YouTube, redo our podcast room to what it is today. And that is how I landed at Visit Mesa. I can go into so many intricacies, but that is how I got here.
So everybody that's listening, if you want to work for your local DMO, make sure you pose for a picture in the visitor guide.
Yeah, go do a cleanup, go do some give back, and literally pose for that picture. Get in your visitor guide.
I love that. Well, let's talk about the City Limitless podcast, and I'm going to give a little bit of background here for my listeners. I've actually kept an eye on what you're doing with the City Limitless podcast, and I think as far as destination podcasts go, it is one of the very best that I've seen for a variety of reasons, right? So I want to go through a couple of them. Number one is you have recognized that you have people in Mesa or in the local area that have audiences of their own. And you've recognized that if I bring those people on and have them tell their story, that I may be able to capture some of their audiences. I think that's a really interesting and important way to grow an audience on a podcast. And so you've had Big Dawes on, right? Which he's got how many followers again?
10 million. Well, actually closer to the 11 million subscriber mark.
Wow.
On YouTube.
Wow. It's unreal. And I actually remember from years ago, he used to post those videos of him going and hitting on girls and stuff.
Doing his prank
ASU
videos.
Campus, prank videos, all of that. And it's actually been kind of fun to watch him evolve. Now I think he really tries to leverage it to do good, which is really interesting. But you had him on to tell his story. You had my dream guest.
I know. We're going to, maybe all three of us are going to have to sit down.
I would love that. Jessie Cole from the Savannah Bananas, who may right now have one of the biggest and most engaged audiences that are out there, right? And you've done a really good job of, instead of just promoting Mesa in everything that you do, you're bringing in people to tell stories, and Mesa is the backdrop. And I've kind of been trying to encourage destinations to do less front and center promoted content and instead allow you to be the backdrop for really cool stories. And I think you've done that really well.
Thank you so much. That puts a lot of good hard work into validation.
Absolutely. And you deserve it. I would love to have you maybe talk about the evolution from when you started working on the podcast, the City Limitless show, to where it is today. What decisions have you made? What roadblocks have you run into?
Sure.
Destinations, I think it's really overwhelming to think about starting a podcast. You've heard me say this. I'm of the belief that every destination should have one. Right?
Do it. It's worth it.
And so I would love to have you maybe just let us behind the scenes. Let us hear what that journey's been like.
Yeah. So I am a human of not taking no for an answer. I am shamelessly able to ask for anything and everything. And I think that's where I've truly been able to grow and develop this. When I say I don't take no for an answer, I just strategically regroup and try to find the yes. So it's never out of rudeness or anything, but it's truly out of passion,
persistence.
I love Mesa. This whole city I've touched in some capacity my whole life, which is just so crazy to think. And 18-year-old Ashley couldn't wait to get out of here. 31-year-old, 32-year-old Ashley doesn't realize that she's still so ingrained in it. And I think that's what helps is driving that passion. But when I started, we had no soundproofing in this room that we're in right now. I don't say no. It was very, very minuscule, but the echoing and the quality was where it was. And I don't want to bag on that. You have to start somewhere. And where we were at, we had the equipment, and that's great. You had to start with something small. But not only that, we were just audio. And during the COVID era, people wanted screen time on stuff. So that's when I was like, we have to get on video. We started with a small little camera. I did not have any knowledge of I can work a camera, no editing, no audio, video editing. And I was very insistent on bringing in my first production company. And it was a one-man show. It was just the two of us doing anything and everything that we possibly could. And that's what we did. What I wanted to do was capitalize on the stories that were in Mesa, because I grew up here and people weren't amplified in that matter. I'd assume, if there was small celebrities here that they were humble, you didn't know about it. If there's people here that want to be known and want to talk to our audience and we can share audiences, let's bring those conversations and stories to light. And obviously through the connections between Allison, Mark, Lance, people that we work with on the dailies who has truly helped bring these guests to light. So that's where we went. And I was like, let's show Mesa off. We will obviously give our local restaurants and businesses love in between, but our funnel had to be wide in order to get down to a narrow audience. I would say something with a hiccup, not necessarily a hiccup, but a struggle is narrowing the audience because we have so many stories from so many backgrounds. I don't want to just pigeonhole golf per se when we have a great food scene. We have a great other sports scene. We have adventure here. And I want our podcast to be something for everybody. Building up a personal brand for myself, for people to want to tune in to just listen to me interview guests. That's a struggle because who's Ashley? Who is she? You know what I mean? When I'm not working, I'm a mom and I'm a wife and I'm an adventurer. Maybe to some people that's not fun and entertaining, but that's my life outside of this. I feel like I have an alter ego. I have my work self and then I have my personal self. So with that, I've been so thankful because Mark hasn't said no and he's so open to stuff. One of our first episodes was with an Academy Award winner, Troy Kotzer, who's now featured on a new Netflix series. What is so special about him and what's so special for me is that he's deaf and very integrated in the deaf community. I chose my second language through high school and college to be sign language.
Oh, wow.
Literally with no expectation of ever using it to a capacity like that. But we got to highlight a deaf actor who is also a local here, went to Westwood High School, which was my rival high school. And he lives here and he's doing big stuff. But what was cool about that episode is we had his interpreter, we had him, and we had me. So logistically, I had to go through podcasts. I literally was like, where has this been done before? How do we do this to accommodate multiple communities to make sure the deaf community is accommodated and they're getting what they need out of this, but also accommodating our hearing community, right? So we've had so many different levels of different ways that we're doing things. And I'm the first one to tell you, hey, if you need an interview at 8:00 at night on a Saturday, tell me where I need to be and my crew will be there. We want to capture as much interesting stories as possible. That is happening right here in Mesa. It's a loaded answer.
Oh, I love that. I actually want to dig into a couple of the things that you said. So first of all, I want you to take me back to the episode with, what was the actor's name?
Troy Kotzer.
Troy Kotzer. So you said you did a bunch of research to help you prepare for that.
Yeah.
What did you find and how did you end up executing on that episode?
On a whim. Never done it before. So my heart was pounding. The biggest thing was getting his interpreter on, and we were so thankful that he was able to accommodate being on with us. So how we executed that was he's fully deaf. Interestingly enough, you can't always assume people in the deaf community have cochlear implants or reed lips. And that was the case, and that's totally fine. I wanted to know that my interview was going to be radiating the volume of the story that we could. So in the production, we have Troy and I conversating like we are, but his interpreter was also to my left.
On camera.
On camera, but I had no communication over there. So we had this triangle thing. How it played out visually was there was going to be silence between Troy and I. I will tell you, my sign language was not up to par to have a conversation. Unfortunately, I never knew I would had to have used that. So there was airiness between us, and I had to know that that was going to be okay because there was also another conversation going on between him and the interpreter and myself, right? How we projected that on camera was I interviewed Troy. Troy conversated with his interpreter, and then his interpreter vocalized while signing the answers. So on screen, you saw the two of us, but then down in our video, you had a bubble where the interpreter was. So we had sign language interpretation, we had an overlay of captions, and then you had visual and audio elements. So with all that, it was a lot to do and consider, and we executed, and it was so much fun, but I have never done it. My research was, where has this been done before? And it really hasn't. I went on a Good Morning America interview, and they just, obviously it's live, so they got to have all three happening at once, but I needed to portray that for a later episode. He did an interview with Mayor Giles, and forgive me, I don't really remember a lot of the interview, but again, it was well executed, but they kept a one camera angle shot where we incorporate three. So there was a lot of logistics to go on happening as we were doing it, and then a lot more logistics to go on behind the scenes to project that story that we wanted to tell. It was interesting.
Did you ever get word from him on how he felt about how it all came out?
I didn't. He's a very, very, very busy man. He was very hard to get a hold of to begin with, so just getting him was a challenge within itself, but people of those calibers were. We put it out there. It was one of our first 2 episodes. It still kicks up some viewership here and there, and we try to reshare his stuff as a support of him because, he just has a new Netflix episode. So we're like, go check him out. He's local to Mesa. We haven't gotten feedback, but definitely a conversation I still would love to come back and revisit and interview with him again.
Great. One of the things that I've learned as a podcast host is the episode that might be your favorite doesn't necessarily always end up being the audience's favorite, right? You're like, come on, the numbers have got to be better on this.
Chasing those numbers, right? I'm telling you.
So I'm curious for you, what is your favorite episode that you've done?
Oh my gosh.
And what's your audience's favorite episode?
I want to say, and not to give Jesse Cole even more than he has, I was coming off maternity leave when I did that interview. Like, I wasn't even back in office when I did that interview. And I was chasing that interview during maternity leave because he is such a coveted person. It was a favorite for me, the Jesse Cole interview, because I got to see a different side of him that you don't see. Embarrassingly enough, I cried during that interview because I had a 3-month-old at home, and he talked about some stuff that he talks about, but not in the depth that he did, which was his adopted children and why they were adopted and their medical background of how they came to be and how Jesse and his wife got to have them. And it was a space that we could just conversate about that without honing in on Mesa. It was just a timeless piece that we own. And that was just so special. Local wise.
Hold on. Before you.
Yeah. Tell me. Am I touching something so totally not good?
No, you said something that I think everybody needs to hear.
Okay.
And that's the fact that instead of Visit Mesa being front and center, it was a story that was really valuable that you own.
Yeah.
Why is that delineation important?
I have to give just a small background. My ultimate favorite podcast host is Alex Cooper.
Okay.
And this is going to go totally rogue.
A little different brand than your show.
Totally a different brand. And not even idolizing the content or anything, but she as a human has built a brand that if you've listened to her from the start to now, you're still following her in this huge growth journey, right? In City Limitless, I don't get to do that because that's not what we're here to sell. I can sell portions of small stories, and I feel like that's what I got to do with Jesse Cole. And that was my small little Alex Cooper moment, was tell me something that people don't get to hear. Tell me something that you are not pitching at the Mound in front of 80,000 people. They get the small taste of it, but give me the whole cookie of that. And that's what he got to give us. And I thought that was special. And that's like an evolution of where City Limitless I would love to go, is just tell me something small that you don't talk about. I'm never going to be an Alex Cooper. That is A-okay. She owns the space. But personally, to stay intrigued as a host, I want that for myself. You know what I mean? Yeah. If that makes sense.
it does make sense. I think what's so important when you're a storyteller, and if we're a podcast host, we're a storyteller, right? And then when you have a guest, you're more of a story facilitator,
yes,
right?
Yes.
But these moments where somebody unveils something that they haven't said to someone else, or it's not the thing that Jesse says on the Mound in front of 80,000 people. because of what you did as a host, you have that, right? And that's a Visit Mesa product as part of the City Limitless podcast. And I think one of the things people maybe miss when they're trying to create a podcast is if you don't ask the next question or the follow-up question or the, hey, hold on, I want to dig into that question, you may not get that soundbite, right? And so if you came in with an outline, which, you interviewed me on your show.
Yeah, I have an outline.
You gave me an outline, but it's not like we went question by question through the outline. We allowed the conversation to kind of be its own thing. And I really feel like for a podcast to be successful and to actually build an audience, you got to get beyond the surface level. You can't just be robotic about your outline. Find the little dangling pieces of a conversation that you can pull on, and that's where you get some of those unique moments. And that's what helps a podcast build an audience and helps a show grow. And it sounds like you were able to do that with Jesse.
If I had to nail down a moment, in time, 3 minutes of him talking about his kids and his family and their upbringing was invaluable, in the fact that we got to capture that the best. But then again, we also have so many good local stories. Our Mesa Historical Museum holds such a story of the founding of Mesa and the people, and Susan Ricci has such a passion for all things Mesa, and she got to come tell her story about the museum. And that museum's off the beaten path here in Mesa. It's not in downtown, so it's kind of forgotten about. But to tell those stories, and then speaking to the guys out at Cannon Beach and Revel Surf, what an epic thing to add to an adventure destination, right? And then we have upcoming podcasts with Mensho Ramen House and Espiritu and Roberto out there. We can hit high level, but we're also hitting phenomenal stories locally here too. It's hard to nail it down, truly.
I guess then the second half of my original question, I guess, would be, what episode did your audience find most interesting?
Yeah, so we're dabbling with different strategies now on our back end of how we're promoting podcasts, and organically. I'll forever laugh at this. Organically, our hottest episode was with the Party Animals and the Savannah Bananas, Austin and Jake Lialios. I sat there and wore a banana costume. It was funny because I was 14 weeks pregnant. The last thing I wanted to do was podcast while being that early in a pregnancy and wear a banana suit. And Austin, who plays for the Savannah Bananas, also wore a banana suit. So I felt more comfortable. I had a script. I realized that these guys just wanted some banter. And that's what I did. I bantered with them. And it just rose in views. It just went crazy. Two attractive athletes. Who's not going to want to watch the episode? Who cares about the content at that point, right? But organically, that was our most popular one. My question is, well, how do you follow up and capitalize on that? Austin, Jake, call me. We can redo this anytime. But organically, that was our most favored podcast.
So if you have a destination podcast and you want more listenership, wear the banana suit.
Wear the banana suit. That's where it is. So now I'm sitting here. I'm like, every episode, what costume am I going to have to wear next? You know what I mean?
Oh, that's so fun.
Guys, over the years, I've had several of you reach out to me and ask if I do more one-on-one consulting instead of a full agency engagement. And at the time, it wasn't something that I really did. But I've noticed that there's been some challenges in the space. And what I've learned is that for agencies, sometimes an agency comes in, and because the right work hasn't been done on the front end, no matter who the agency is, it actually gets set up to fail. And what it's led me to is a desire to help set up a few things differently than the way they've been done in the past. And it's led me to launch adamstoker.com. This is a site where you can go and see the 6 major opportunities I see in the space for marketing strategy and departments to be set up correctly and built for the future. I've seen several different things. For example, I know that one issue that we're having in our space is that stakeholder communication hasn't been standardized. I don't think it's been very perfected. I do think there's some destinations who are doing it really well. And based on what I've seen, I feel like that's a place where I can really help a destination put together a solid plan and succeed. I also feel like we have a lot of marketing departments full of yesterday's marketers, but those departments are not structured to house the marketer of tomorrow. And that's another major thing that I want to help destinations with. I have several other services on the site. If you're interested in working with me directly to helping build the marketing plan, the marketing team, the marketing strategy for the future, let me know, adam@thebrandrevolt.com, or of course, check out adamstoker.com. Can't wait for you guys to see what I've put together there, to look at those products, and let me know what you think. I'm always kind of building on the fly and using your feedback to decide where to go next. So let me know your thoughts at adamstoker.com.
So with a podcast as a destination, as fun as it is, the stories you get to tell and everything, you still have to prove the value of what you're doing, right? And you still have to get the stakeholders to say, yes, this investment makes sense. So how now do you take what you're doing on the City Limitless podcast and tell the story of the success that it's generating? How do you use it? Are you sending episodes as part of earned media pitches? Are you, I don't know, instead of prompting you with that, I'd love to hear how you're using it.
Well, so it's interesting because I don't know everything, right? The biggest thing you need first is the content, right? I can't pitch anything. I can't email anything without building content. So we are in such a huge content phase, and I'm finally ahead of myself of recording and publishing. So I have a library that I can pull from now, which is a breath of fresh air. As far as pitching it and getting out in the audience, we're trying to plug it in where it makes sense. So keeping it event focused when events are happening, and driving audiences to go to events and attend events, to also pitching, hey, we got this upcoming season, or using it in email blast and building email audiences to make a dedicated audience for our email blast. Blogging, after I record, I'm head down in a computer blogging SEO related content to make sure that this stuff is hitting the internet where we need it to hit. Publishing it. I also publish all of this, driving the SEO content for our YouTube descriptions, making sure it's up on our RSS feeds and going live when it needs to go live, hitting Spotify, hitting Apple Podcasts, building out a plan of where else are we releasing this, making sure that our webpage is up to par and makes sense with where the episodes are falling. I'm at a point where wherever we can get it out, I will give you anything and everything, to be completely honest.
Yeah. And feedback from the organization, stakeholders,
They
how's
love
everybody
it.
feeling about it?
I mean, no news is good news, right? They love it. They're first of the line as soon as episodes are out. They're getting that information. They're getting every link to anywhere that you can get it, and with the hopes that they're sharing it with their audiences, right? Sharing it on LinkedIn with just the industry to see what we're doing. No news is good news. And I love that. But I am always open to feedback. I don't want a one-man show, but also it's an interesting position to hold, because the stories that you want to tell, you want to make sure they're entertaining. And not everything's a story yet. So, I don't know if you want to keep that in, but that's
I like
just
that.
how it's an interesting field. I never want to say no, but also giving the reason why, great idea, not yet. Hold on to it. We can come back to it. It just has to make sense.
Well, it's also, where are you in the story? Because I think there's a lot of people that want to come tell a story before it's had time to mature and actually get to some sort of an outcome or completion. And telling a story too early is actually a pretty painful place to be, because you might not get all the redeeming parts of a story that you want. Actually, from a vision perspective, let's say, let's pretend that we're in a vacuum,
Yeah.
okay? And all your hopes and dreams for this podcast come true. What's your vision for it?
Well, I have to say that this is definitely Mark Garcia's vision. I'm just kind of leading a charge, and he has nothing but wonderful feedback, and he thinks what we're doing is on track. So that's always reassuring to have your CEO know that like his baby is in good hands, and we're taking this and we're running with it with delicacy, with thought. I have to say his vision, because I align with it, is a production company. And I've not said that out loud to anybody. And, if we look at personal KPIs and stuff, like I have on a roadmap this fiscal year to be presenting what a production company can look like. I don't know what that looks like. Is that facilitating production for partners so they have an outlet? Is that dedicating, Arizona Athletic Grounds, for instance, they have such an amazing property out there. Is that dedicating space just for them to own? Proof of concepting it and then selling it to people to come to us for those production needs. I don't know. He wants City Limitless Productions, and this is going to be a run and try it all to see where we could get with that.
Why would he want it to be a production company?
Oh, you're going to ask a question I don't have an answer to. I don't know. I really don't.
Well, I'll catch up with him on that.
Yeah.
I
think that that uses now a platform for you to chat with Mark on that, because he would have those better answers.
I'll give my opinion, because I agree with him 100%. Yeah. Because if every destination started to think of themselves not as just the organization for promoting tourism, but the media production organization for all things related to the destination. I'll give you an example. I'm in the hot tub this morning, okay, with a guy who, and I just asked him where he's from and stuff, and he's like, I'm a chef. I'm like, what are you doing here? He is part of, and I'm trying to remember which cooking show it was. Anyway, one of those reality cooking shows, big national show. He won the show several years ago, and in that show, a lot of the people after the fact have built this traveling show, and so it's a cooking show where they go destination to destination, they do cooking challenges, they have mystery boxes and stuff like that, and this guy, I would make an entire show about this guy, like just this one guy that was sitting in the hot tub with me. And I feel like that might be something that destinations are missing, is if you have millions of people coming to your destination on a daily basis, change the way you think about that. There's millions of stories coming to your destination on a daily basis, all intertwined with the Visit Mesa story. And I really believe that destinations need to become amplifiers of the existing stories in the destination, and then capturers of the external stories that come into the destination, and amplify those just constantly. And when we're in an economy of attention, when attention is the primary thing that we're all kind of chasing, and of course you want to convert that attention into trust.
Yes.
Stories will get that attention. Yeah. And so I think Mark is 100% on the right track of trying to build Visit Mesa or City Limitless Productions into a production company. I would love to see that come to fruition.
That, we don't have 10 years, but we've got the time. We have the resources. It's just all about, I'm a big proponent of executing well. There's always going to be gaps. There's always going to be hurdles. I also don't like to touch things more than I have to. So if I can perfect it sooner rather than later, I feel like that paves an easier road to the future.
Yeah.
So yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Well, Ashley, I'm going to steal a page out of your book. Okay.
Okay. So these are each of our social posts.
Yeah, exactly. I want to know, because you said that question with Jesse really got you to something interesting. What do you not normally share about your role or your show that you think might benefit our audience?
Yeah. It's hard. I personally carry the weight more than I should, but it's because I care a lot. I want this to succeed. There's so much a destination can do with podcasting, and to get people to realize that, it's a task. You hear podcasting is saturated, but if you do it well, it's not. I take a lot of stuff personal, which I shouldn't, but when it's a baby that you're carrying, it's hard not to. And I just want it to succeed. My passion for it runs super, super deep. It's not something I ever planned to do. I had no interest of being right here on a microphone. I was introduced with that, and you probably had the biggest deer in the headlights that you've ever seen in your life. I was like, oh no. I go home to my husband. I don't think I can do this. I can talk to anybody, but not when lights, camera, action go. And I care a lot. I care about the guests. I care about the content we put out. I'm overly passionate. There's so many stories in Mesa that I want to share. And what I don't tell people is I carry a heavy weight. And if anything drops, I get very attached and emotional to it if it's not up to standards. And it's hard not to do that,
And it's hard not to be critical of yourself
that
when
too.
you put yourself in front of a microphone
Adam,
and a camera.
My answer. That too. I'm very critical about myself. You have to turn something on. As a host, I got 2 little kids at home, and my husband goes to work way before I do. So I don't get to lean on somebody to get kids ready in order to make sure my face looks great in the morning and my hair looks perfect. And I get very critical, and that's also hard. I never expected to do that,
Yeah, no, I'm glad you
It's
gave
vulnerable.
a little vulnerability.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
but it is, and I do put a brave face on in front of my coworkers because I don't want vulnerability to be mistaken for anything else, but it is what it is. And then I have a reality with myself, like this can end tomorrow.
Yeah.
It could. And I want to make sure that if it does, I've set it up to a point that somebody else could run with it if that were to happen. That's my negative side. I can't help it, but I think of all facets. This could be done tomorrow,
I appreciate the transparency. I would say I do want to end on a positive
yes, let's
note.
talk positive.
What are you most proud of?
You're hitting me on all the feels. I have to say, first and foremost, I'm proud of my team that I work with here at Visit Mesa and our production team. My production team's along for such a crazy ride. Allie, who's our main producer, I'm on the phone with her sometimes at 5 p.m. past working hours or 8 a.m. before she's even logged on. And things happen and that comes up. And it's so nice to be welcomed to somebody that's like, yeah, I'll answer your phone. Yeah, I'll text you if you need to talk. So I'm so thankful for that. And then I'm thankful for Mark to be a newcomer. I'm 2 years deep at Visit Mesa, and he could have said no when I presented him with a 15-page deck of how we're doing a podcast room, what the cost is going to look like, what's the vision like, how I'm going to execute X, Y, and Z. And he's like, yeah, do it. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm proud of, I don't want to gloat this, I'm proud of what we've built, and
It's
excited.
okay to be proud of it.
I'm proud. I verbally have not said I'm proud, but I'm proud of this. I'm proud of the room. I'm proud of the hard work that my team, both at Visit Mesa and our production team, put into it, because I would say for the first year, all you ever heard out of my mouth was podcast, podcast, podcast. And if you had to take a drink of something or tally mark how many times I said podcast, poof, get us a hospital bed now, because it's been a lot, but it's because I believe in it. And I'm proud of the vision, and I'm thankful. I'm not proud. I'm thankful to be given the opportunity to build this.
Well, you should be proud. It's an incredible show. Everybody should go check it out. I think it's really worth listening to.
If you followed me for a long time, you know that owned media is something that I'm incredibly passionate about. I believe that building communities through owned media is the future of the destination visitor relationship, and I really believe that that's where the industry is going. In this journey, I've discovered that there is a gap in my strategy, and that's the fact that if we don't have an adequate digital home for this community to be created, it's going to be a lot more difficult to connect that media to the correct audience. This is why a lot of the websites that are existing in the industry are no longer relevant and no longer working the way that they're supposed to. If your website is nothing more than a glorified directory or a series of listings about the different attractions, restaurants, dining establishments, hotels in your destination, you're only scratching the surface on what people are actually looking for from a destination website. The website of the future is a content hub, and of course it's going to be integrated with AI, but a content hub where people can go learn about your destination and interact with the content that is most relevant to where they are in their buyer journey. If all you have is a bunch of buttons that say buy now, buy now, buy now on your website, you are not serving your audience. We want to build a community of people who are passionate about visiting the destination, and we can build that relationship through content. I have partnered with an organization called Destination Core, and together we have reimagined the destination website to be this content hub that I'm describing, where you can build a community. And Destination Core is an incredible company out of the UK. They've built, at this point, hundreds of destination websites, and I'm so thrilled to have built this new reimagined website concept with them. We are rolling it out right now with several pilot clients, and it's going amazingly. I can't wait to show you those pilot projects. If you're interested in being one of the first to experience this new reimagined website concept for destinations, reach out to me at adam@thebrandrevolt.com, and we can get that conversation started.
If people want to learn more about you or maybe ask you questions about what it's taken to get the show to this point, what's the best way?
Check me out on LinkedIn, Ashley Stwertnik. I'm literally the only one out there. You can also email me, which is a lot easier, Ashley, ASHLEY, @visitmesa.com. I am always open for any and all conversations. I podcast for a living. Please ask me. I've talked to a couple DMOs out in Tennessee. I'm very well tied in with the Long Island podcast because their producer, what he's been doing has been phenomenal. Michael's been a great resource for me to help leverage where I should go. And then check us out at City Limitless Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. That's where you can find us.
Perfect. Ashley, seriously, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it. We'll be in touch again.
Perfect. And thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to leave us a rating or a review. It helps us continue to bring you amazing guests like Ashley. Thank you, everyone, and have a great week.